I wasn't looking for revenge. I wasn't plotting anything. Honestly, I hadn't even thought about my childhood bully in years. As far as I was concerned, she was just another person from my past. Then one random Saturday night, I ran into someone at a party. A few minutes into the conversation, I realized something that made my jaw drop. Without even trying, without even knowing she existed, I'd accidentally done something that would absolutely crush her ego. The moment I figured out who she was, I couldn't stop laughing. Because after everything she put me through growing up, karma had finally caught up with her. And the best part, I didn't have to lift a finger. If you've ever watched someone who made life miserable for everyone finally get what was coming to them, you're going to love today's story. Hit that like button, subscribe for more Reddit revenge stories, and settle in because this one proves that karma works in some very strange ways. Now let's get into it. When I was about 10 or 11 years old, there was a kid who lived on our street. We'll call him George. And to say George was a nightmare would be putting it mildly. Every neighborhood has that one kid, the one whose parents never seem to know what he's doing, the one who turns every peaceful afternoon into chaos, the one everyone secretly hopes moves away. That was George. From sunrise to sunset, he was causing problems. He'd throw rocks at passing cars, not little pebbles, actual rocks, the kind that could crack a windshield. Then he'd sprint away laughing before anyone could catch him. At night he'd sneak around the neighborhood ringing doorbells. Not once, not twice, over and over. Families would finally get their babies asleep, only to hear the doorbell ringing at midnight, and there would be George, already halfway down the street, laughing, running, being a little menace. But the thing that made everyone hate him wasn't the vandalism. It wasn't the pranks. It was how he treated people, especially younger girls. My younger sister was one of his favorite targets. He'd mock her, follow her around, call her names, embarrass her whenever he got the chance. And she wasn't the only one. Every girl younger than him seemed to be on his radar. The strange thing, George was incredibly selective about who he bullied, because despite all his tough guy behavior, he was a coward, a complete coward. The second an older brother showed up, he'd run. The moment another boy his age confronted him, gone. If I came outside after hearing my sister upset, George would literally turn around and sprint home. Every single time. No fight. No argument. No explanation. Just pure panic. It became almost funny. Almost. Because my sister still had to deal with him. The other girls still had to deal with him. And the entire neighborhood still had to deal with him. For years, I remember lying in bed some nights, hearing stories about whatever George had done that week. Broken windows. Arguments. Pranks. Bullying. And thinking, how does one kid cause this much trouble? But eventually life moved on. People grew up, families moved, schools changed, and George slowly disappeared from my world, until I completely forgot about him. 10 years later, I was in my early 20s, living in a completely different part of the city, different friends, different life, different everything. George wasn't even a memory anymore. Then one Saturday night changed that. A group of friends invited me to a house party. Nothing unusual, just one of those weekends where everyone's trying to relax. After a long week, the house was packed, music shaking the walls, people laughing, conversations happening, everywhere. You know the kind of party, the kind where you only know half the people there. Maybe less. And that's when I met her. At first she was just another stranger in a crowded room, but we started talking, and the conversation flowed surprisingly easily. No awkward pauses, no awkward pauses, no awkward small talk, just one of those rare moments where you instantly click with someone. Hours seemed to disappear. We laughed, shared stories, made fun of mutual experiences. The entire evening felt effortless. Honestly, it was weird how naturally everything happened. I'm not some player. Never have been. I'm usually the opposite, the kind of guy who overthinks everything. Yet somehow that night felt incredibly easy. Like things were just unfolding on their own. Eventually we ended up spending the rest of the evening together, and by the end of the night, we exchanged numbers before heading home. Simple, normal, nothing dramatic. Or so I thought. A little while later, after getting home, my phone buzzed. It was her. Just a quick text saying she'd gotten home safely. We chatted briefly then. I found myself doing what everyone does these days. I looked up her social media at the time. Her birthday had recently happened, So her profile was flooded with birthday messages, friends, family, relatives, dozens of posts. I was casually scrolling through them when something caught my eye. A photo, just a normal family picture. Her standing beside an older man. The caption read, "Happy birthday to my beautiful daughter." I paused. Something felt strange. The man looked familiar. Very familiar. Not in the "I saw him somewhere once" kind of way. In the "I've known this face my entire life" kind of way. I zoomed in, stared at the picture. My brain started digging through old memories. And suddenly, it hit me hard. I sat straight up in bed. No way. I looked again, then one more time. There was absolutely no doubt it was him, George's father. My heart actually skipped. I remember staring at the screen thinking, this can't be real. Out of every person, out of every party, out of every house in an entire city, there was no way this was happening. Then reality fully connected the dots. The girl I'd spent the evening with was George's sister. The second I realized it, I completely lost it. I started laughing. Not a little chuckle. Not a smile. I'm talking full on, uncontrollable laughter. The kind where you can't breathe. The kind where tears start forming in your eyes. It was nearly 3 in the morning. I was lying in bed, half exhausted, slightly drunk, staring at my phone while laughing like an idiot. Because the sheer absurdity of it was unbelievable. I hadn't planned anything. I hadn't searched for her. I didn't even know she existed. Yet somehow life had delivered the most random piece of karma imaginable. The kid who spent years tormenting people. The neighborhood terror. The coward who bullied girls, but ran from boys. The guy who made everyone's childhood worse, and completely by accident, I had ended up connecting with his sister. The odds were insane, absolutely insane. I kept imagining what George's reaction would be, if he somehow found out. Would he be furious? Embarrassed? Would he even remember me? The whole thing felt like something out of a movie. Of course. Curiosity got the better of me. So I looked a little further. And eventually, I figured out why I'd never seen her growing up. Her parents had divorced years earlier. After the divorce, she'd grown up in a completely different city. That's why our paths had never crossed. That's why I'd never known George even had a sister. And that's why this entire situation had happened. Without either of us having any clue. Honestly, the more I learned, the funnier it became. Because it wasn't revenge, not really. There was no scheme, no master plan, no dramatic confrontation, just pure coincidence, pure chance, pure karma. The funniest part, I never told her, not once. I never mentioned George, never brought up the neighborhood, never told her about the years of bullying, never said, "Hey, funny story, your little brother used to terrorize our street." Nothing. The conversation continued for a few days, then naturally faded out. Life moved on. And that was the end of it, at least for us. But every now and then I still think about that moment, that instant when I recognized her father. That split second where 10 years of forgotten memories came rushing back, and I remember laughing all over again. Because if someone had told my 11-year-old self that one day, I'd accidentally get the ultimate revenge on George, I never would have believed them. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes life has a strange way of balancing the scales when you least expect it. And sometimes karma doesn't knock on the door. It simply shows up at a random house party 10 years later. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more unbelievable Reddit revenge stories. And let me know in the comments, do you think George ever found out? Because honestly, that's the part that still makes me laugh. And until next time, remember, karma has a very strange sense of humor.